Alright, so in this section we're going to get into Twitter Bootstrap, which is an open source front-end framework for faster and easier web development. Alright, Bootstrap is the most popular framework of its type, and I believe it's the second most starred project on GitHub. And it includes HTML and CSS templates and also components for things like typography, buttons, menus, and lists. GetBootstrap.com has simple snippets that you can use in your projects and get prototypes up and running really quickly. It also includes optional JavaScript plugins for things like modals, drop-downs, carousels, and accordion sliders. So what can you use Bootstrap with? You can use it with any kind of static website, whether it's HTML4, 5, or XHTML. You can use it in front-end applications, so maybe a JavaScript or jQuery application, or maybe something that uses a JavaScript framework like Angular or React.js. Back-end server-side applications with Node.js, PHP, Ruby on Rails. You can also use it in mobile or hybrid applications, and basically anything with an HTML interface. And even if you plan on creating a custom interface later on and not using Bootstrap, you can use it to prototype and just to get things up so you can actually work with the interface and test your functionality. So there's a lot of different reasons to use something like Bootstrap. One, it makes things much easier than having to come up with custom designs for things like buttons and forms and tables. And this in turn saves you a bunch of time. If you go by the Bootstrap guidelines, and especially if you're using the grid system, your application interface is going to be responsive, which means that it'll look good on any device, whether it's a desktop or a tablet or a smartphone. The layout will adapt to the current screen size. Alright, and Bootstrap 3 also uses the mobile-first approach, which means that it was built to think about the most compact design first, and then expand from there up to desktop layout. Alright, it's also compatible with all of the most modern browsers, so your website or your application will always look the same no matter who's viewing it and no matter what device it's being viewed on. Alright, and there's more advantages to using Bootstrap, but these are some of the biggest ones. Alright, so Bootstrap gives us a ton of custom elements and snippets to work with. If you go to getbootstrap.com, you can see that. We'll look into that in the next video. But you can simply copy and paste these things into your HTML, and they'll give you really nice looking elements. So typography, forms, tables, buttons. There's certain image classes where you can easily add borders or resize the image or whatever you want to do with it. Okay, some of the CSS components, there's glyphicons, which are just small icons that you can use. There's certain class names. You can put that in let's say a span tag, and that'll give you a certain icon, and you can adjust the size with CSS, with the font size. Drop downs, button groups where we can lump buttons together, nav bar, breadcrumbs, labels, badges, alerts with different colors for different situations. For instance, a warning, you might want yellow, or danger, red, things like that. A jumbotron, which is basically like a big showcase area that you would have on your landing page. Progress bars, media objects, which can be used in things like blog posts or news articles. List groups, which are used with unordered lists. Panels, wells, which kind of give you a background and a header, and then input groups. Alright, so these are just some of the components that we'll be going over in this section. And like I said, you also have some JavaScript widgets, modals, which are basically alert boxes that will pop up when you click a button or submit a form or whatever you'd like to do. Drop downs for navigation, tabs, tooltips, so when you hover over something you'll have a nice tooltip that pops up, pop over, kind of similar to a tooltip. Alerts, and then carousels, which are basically photo sliders. Okay, so you can slide through a group of photos or images. Alright, so Bootstrap has its own grid system, and it's a 12-column responsive grid system, It's really easy to work with. You just have to use certain class names. Like you can see down here, we have 12 columns. Now this is 12 one-column divs, and you can see we have the class call MD1. So the MD is for medium. That's basically, I forget the exact pixels, but when you're viewing, I think, a 960 pixel layout, this will come into play. You can also use call LG for large. You can use call SM for small, but we'll get into that later on. All right, and then right under that, you can see we have an 8-column div and then a 4-column div. This is a common main and then sidebar area. And then we have 3 4-column divs and then 2 6-column divs. All right, and if that's confusing to you, don't worry about it. We're gonna have a video on the grid system. Okay, Bootstrap also gives you predefined templates you can use. So over here you can see some of the examples. These are right from getbootstrap.com. So if you want to start with a nav bar, start with a jumbotron, things like that. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll show you how to download Bootstrap, how to implement it, and we'll take a look at some of the templates next.